Tons of great lessons on this simple trending price action today of trading off of key levels, how to read the 15-minute time frame, and what to expect on these type of Mondays. So when we look at the charts here on ES to start off, you like the long bias coming in, which we'll take a look at in a little bit, but we get a break for an open range high, rips for a new high a day, right? And I've said it plenty of times, don't chase the first break open range high, not to excuse it, but if you look at today's calendar on Forex Factory or anywhere else, there's no news today on a Monday. And oftentimes on no news Mondays, it's really just one-sided. Sometimes it could be very sideways because it's just waiting for maybe a news event the next day. But the fact that there's no news, nothing really to drive the market in either direction, it's almost like these days have not enough, in this case, sellers to really give us any big pullbacks, right? So it breaks a side, it continues that side, and cleanly trends. We do have to be aware of that coming into the sessions of the weeks. Is there any news today that's going to drive us in any one direction, or is there going to be a battle between buyers and sellers? And then you can see today, clearly, the first break of open range high runs. But we still don't chase it because we can still find opportunities after that. Now, this is on ES, and you can see there's no real pullback to the New York VWAP. I just made a video recently on comparing ES versus NQ, which is the better asset to trade. And it kind of goes to my point that I mentioned in that video. Let's go to NQ today. Today, my answer is going to be NQ. NQ is the cleaner asset to trade because this one doesn't overextend as far, pulls back right to the open range high and New York VWAP. So I'm able to trade off of my key levels, a break of high day VWAP. Let's go continue what is clearly bullish trend, right? So I didn't break any rules. I took a trade off of the level, great stop loss, not at previous structure, right? Or not at current structure, excuse me. In case he wants to keep playing around with this VWAP, I should be able to survive that. But at previous structure back here, kind of in the middle of the range to allow it to build any higher low it still wants to. But the bias was super clear, right? We get that first break open range high. Could I have just jumped in along there? Sure. I get what, maybe 5 points, 6 points before it pulls back and gives me that same price opportunity, but now I don't suffer any drawdown or any pullback because I'm trading it after the pullback just came in. And one other thing to look at, we'll look at some later setups, but coming into the day, it's a very important question that a few people ask on stream every day is how do you set the bias? How do you read the higher time frame? So this is on the 15-minute, where if you look heading into today's open, this is on a Monday, it had been bearish overnight. Lower highs and lower lows were even below the overnight VWAP and previous days New York. Now, I'm not saying it's an easy long, but for anyone that maybe just shorted it off these levels as a VWAP retest underneath, let's go make the next lower low, you could see that happening. But any short, right, whether it's on this day or previous days, any of the days in this trend is going to be lower probability. Doesn't mean it's a bad setup that you followed bearish structure and it didn't follow through short. It's just not with the trend. So it's going to be, for the time being, lower probability because we know at any time buyers can step right back in and continue the trend. Because you look back from just Friday, what are we still making? Higher lows. So are you really surprised buyers step in and make a higher high? Not really. So I could definitely see how coming into the open, you want to look for more shorts to continue. And if they did, we'd look to ride them some more and short it lower later on. But don't be surprised when longs step back in because that overall is the trend. So that's why when I'm able to get a long opportunity or a long signal here at the open, I believe it because why not? That's been the trend. That's been who's more in favor. Let's go look for more longs. Now we're back on ES here. We could also take a look at NQ. There was no real pullback off that key level like I showed you on NQ. So that's why I like to trade multiple assets that I can get involved without having to chase it in the drift up here, right? And potentially get smoked by the pullback. But I've also had plenty of videos on what is a good enough pullback for me to want to trade it, right? That there's no real way to quantify it. Unfortunately, it's going to involve a lot of discretion, a lot of markups. But when we look at the difference between, is there any pullbacks in there? Is there any pullbacks in here? Yeah, probably this is the pullback, right? You can just visually see it. A lot of the pullbacks that I see and I end up trading, I don't even think about it. There's no, like I said, there's no number to it. There's no time value to it. It's like, oh yeah, this is a pretty good pullback. Just seeing it with my eyes. It's not like, oh, that's 28 candles. Okay, good. I'm allowed to trade it. No, that's at a pretty good base from 11 o'clock to now the time buyers are stepping back in. If we put on a high of day VWAP, let's turn that purple. Buyers step back in at 12. So it's been an hour. That's a pullback for sure. Buyers are back in. Let's go take this back higher and continue the trend. And it rips for another new clean high of day. But now let's also take a look at the signal to the left. And again, for anyone that's confused, I teach all of this on Futures 2.0, which is on AceFX TV. You can get the free month with code FIRST. You get your first month for free to this, as well as the live streams where we take these trades that we explain in the course. So definitely tune into that and tune into the streams. But I'll also preach where to put your stop loss because there is a break of high day VWAP here. Now, first off, same thing going to that earlier point, not really a lovely pullback that's filling up so much of the gray space below us. It's really off a key level. No, it's a pullback maybe, but I just don't love it. But let's say you take it because it is in fact a break of high day VWAP. On all my videos, the least safe spot to put a stop loss is that current structure, right? I went over that on my notes here on my original long. That's why my stop loss wasn't right here. You can see on this example, it would have been safe, but it also could have not been safe and still worked out higher. And I'd be pretty pissed at myself. Same idea if you long it here, get stopped out, and then see it go higher without you. You're like, wait a minute. Why did I lose money going long when in fact this price that I bought it at is the price that pays? Well, it's the timing, but also the stop loss that you give yourself to let that idea play out. Now on this day, to be fair, there really is no structure to the left because that was such a strong rip. But let's just pretend there's another higher low in here, right? The whole idea would be least safe, it stops everybody out, and it goes back higher. That's why you want to give it 2 structure points to the left, right? And maybe on NQ. Let's see if we can find an example over there. I doubt it just because it was drifting so strongly, right? But same idea. After my long there, you anchor the high of day. If we get back in on this next one, literally to a T. You get in long, stop loss right at that structure. What happens? You get just stopped out, and it goes higher without you. So you're probably going to have to buy it right back, try to make back the loss, and now you're using this as your new structure that you could still maybe ultimately end up green, but just an unnecessary loss because you were never told, hey, yeah, you don't want to be long anymore. Get out of this thing, right? No, of course I'd want to be long if we get down here because we're still above every VWAP, still making higher lows, all those great things, right? So just clean textbook structure that if we just remove all these drawings and look at the trend, pretty clearly long bias for sure. That the best entries come after the deeper pullbacks, especially off my earlier one, off of the key level. And it really just comes from sticking with that long bias on the 15-minute, reacting to the pullbacks on the lower time frames here on the 1 minute. I mean, this is literally as clean as it gets because you could play the bounce play right off open range high in New York, but the real 1 minute later, it's a break of high day VWAP. It continues the trend. No drawdown, no stress, off the key level, all that. So textbook setup above every single VWAP. So make sure you guys study Futures 2.0 when you get a chance. Like I said, it's free for anybody that's looking to learn the full strategy as well as trade it live with us every single day. You can see, here's our longs today. I'm not even in the picture, but we're streaming every single morning, so check that out as well. One other thing you could also look at is top 1 sale is still running right now. I know the Ignite accounts came out. Those are going away, but the instant fundage, my code is still offering the best deal right now, an extra 5% off on any of the accounts you buy. That depending on when you're watching it, you can copy trade up to 5. If not, you can still copy trade up to 3, and it's still going to give you the best deal, so make sure you check that out. But last thing to go over is just keeping it simple. Hopefully you saw the video I made earlier this week of losing my accounts because what did I do? Didn't overtrade necessarily, but oversized. So you could even go to that point on one of these longs. If I had taken it, I was already done for the day. If I put too much size on this one trade, that a stop loss where it needs to be down here at structure, let's just say, can't technically survive this drawdown because it's just too heavy. It's going to close it out automatically saying you lost too much money. What are you doing? Well, then I was right on my idea. I bought it at a good price. Why aren't I making money? Well, you're not treating it professionally of saying you need to give it proper risk. If the stop loss is 8 points, how much are you willing to lose on this? All right, 800 bucks. Okay, cool. Then this needs to be worth 800, not the middle here. And you really have a 1600 stop loss, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Don't oversize, don't over risk, don't over trade. Don't do all these different things, right? And last thing, I said last thing maybe 16 times now. It can be very easy to see this break of open range high. The first break, just rip your face off, move higher. And now you're probably going to want to do it tomorrow and long it up there. But not every day looks like this. Very rarely do we just get one directional pumps without any real pullbacks, retest to any other VWAPs, and we just drift higher, right? They're beautiful days. We love when they happen, but they're not always going to paint this pretty or this picture perfect. That just because it happened today, I don't get deluded or brainwashed saying, oh, the first break open range high is looking like it works now. No, because let me go back and try to look at the last 20 times we broke out of the open range and see actually how many of those actually ran the first time. All right, so check that out yourself. I'll see you guys on stream tomorrow morning. Trade safe. I'll see you guys there.